is the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of the Celebrity Afterlife Report, the only show on the entire internet that gives you the up-to-the-minute gossip about all your favorite deceased celebrities. We are back from our 4th of July holiday break. If you celebrate that holiday or any other, I hope you had as much fun as I did. Well, it's been 2 weeks since our last report, so naturally things have been happening in the next world. It's my job to get you up to date about them, so let's have at it. Egyptian actor heartthrob Omar Sharif transitioned to the afterlife a few days ago. Even if you don't recognize his name, you almost certainly would recognize his face, as he starred in several big Hollywood movies, including Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago, and Funny Girl. He was still acting occasionally as recently as 2013. According to my Next World sources, there was a fairly sizable crowd waiting to greet him as he arrived to his new existence, most of the crowd being women who seemed very happy to see him in person. Notable by his absence was the almost ubiquitous self-appointed greeter to the stars, Soul Brother #1, James Brown. According to a source in a position to know the situation, there's no bad blood between Brown and Sharif or anything like that. Seems James was just occupied elsewhere at the time of Sharif's arrival. Now, even if you are familiar with Omar's acting career, you may not be aware that he was also one of the world's top 50 contract bridge players. He even co-wrote a syndicated newspaper column about the game for years with author Charles Lindbergh. As it turns out, there's a large group of dedicated bridge players in the afterlife, something about which I knew nothing until the other day. Many of them were in the crowd assembled to welcome Sharif, and Charles Lindbergh was among them. Within minutes of his arrival, after he had signed autographs and shaken hands, Sharif was invited by Lindbergh to join his bridge tournament circuit, which stages exhibition games all around the next world. Omar, I'm told, was delighted to see his old friend again and happily agreed to join him on the circuit. Here in the United States, the campaign for the 2016 presidential election has already begun. On the Democratic side, there are a few competitors, but on the Republican side, there are well over a dozen challenges for their party's nomination. Now, one of them is a man you may have heard of for his business enterprises, many of which bear his name. That man is Donald Trump. Now, Trump has never seen a camera he wouldn't stand in front of and has never been afraid to give his opinion on any topic. To some, he's a business genius. To at least as many others, he's a loudmouth jerk. To the second list, a new and surprising name can be added, that of his father, Fred Trump. Trump Sr. is a peripheral figure in the next story I'll update you on about Charles Lindbergh and his under-construction all-white town in the afterlife. Fred Trump is currently married to singer-actress Judy Garland, who was the original figure behind the town when it was intended to be an all-female community. That was before she fell in love with Fred Trump and gave the plans for the town to aviator Lindbergh, who had his own design in mind for it. A reporter for a Next World tabloid caught up to Trump Sr., who was out on the town with his new wife last week, and asked him what he thought about his son's presidential campaign. He initially deflected the question, but when the reporter repeated it, he responded, "I don't know what Donnie is thinking," said Trump. "I can't believe he's serious about half the nonsense he says these days. He knows damn well he isn't going to be president, so I can't imagine what this is really all about. I know he likes to see his name in the papers, but he's taking it way too far right now." Unquote. When the reporter asked him if he was ashamed of his son, Trump answered, "Well, I don't want to say ashamed, but if I'm going to be honest, I kind of wish I hadn't left him so much money in my will." The reporter started to ask another question, but Trump cut him off. "I've said too much already. I have to go," unquote. And with that, he and his new bride hopped into his waiting limo and took off. As mentioned, it's time for an update on the ongoing saga of aviator Charles Lindbergh and the all-white community he's building in the next world. 2 weeks ago in the last report, I told you that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife, Coretta, had given him an ultimatum: decide between staying at the protest vigil outside the under-construction town organized by former Nazi leader Adolf Hitler, or come home and live with her. At the time, we didn't know which choice Dr. King was going to make. Now, from several of my sources, we have the answer to that question. Dr. King has decided to stay with Hitler and the large crowd that has assembled to protest Lindbergh's planned community. Friends say Mrs. King was gobsmacked by his decision. She fully expected her husband to come home to her, but word is that Martin has told confidants that the cause he's supporting is too important to abandon right now. To friends who have expressed amazement at the tight friendship between the civil rights leader and the former Führer, King says that he can see Hitler as a changed man, and that proves to him that anyone can find redemption. So the plot thickens. If Hitler and Martin Luther King Jr. were a romantic pair, I would call them the Afterlife's most unlikely couple. As they are merely friends, however, that title is still reserved for former American President Abraham Lincoln and his new wife, singer Whitney Houston. After an initial rough patch when Mr. Lincoln, who is, after all, a man of the 19th century, referred to Whitney as a charming negress, things seem to have settled down for the two lovebirds. Even observers who initially snickered at their pairing now seem to think that Lincoln and Houston are really in it for the long haul. Now, just before recording this edition of the report, I was informed that an unnamed Next World TV producer has offered the two their own variety show. The producer, whose name I'm working on finding out, was apparently struck by the idea that the president and the singer's relationship reminded him of another quirky couple, Sonny and Cher. So with them in mind, the producer contacted Lincoln and Houston and offered them a show similar to the ones hosted by the Bonos in the 1970s. A source who was in the studio audience for the taping of the pilot episode says, yeah, there were some rough spots, especially in the comedy segments, one of which centered around President Lincoln wearing his famous tall hat in bed with his wife, but that the two had surprising chemistry overall. I'm also informed that Honest Abe has a fairly decent singing voice. Okay, that's it. That's all I have for you this week. It's been good to be back after a short break. Please come back next week when I'll have more up-to-the-minute gossip about all your favorite deceased celebrities. Oh, and please help spread the word that the report is available for free on iTunes. I am the Celebrity Medium. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast. To ask a question about your favorite deceased celebrity, call 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-369-3732.